Hello and welcome back to another video of Project Utopia with me. Today we're going to be talking about something quite interesting, something that has been bothering me for a fair amount of time, and that is today's current society. So why am I talking about this? That is a very good question, and it comes down to this. Especially recently in the last year or so, a lot of reports of people who are saying things like this movie or this TV show from the past hasn't aged well, and that it's now sexist, racist, it's homophobic because it makes jokes and things like that. The idea of this is to address the fact of this snowflake generation, in that society at the moment is too sensitive and it must stop because it is affecting so many different things. Let us start by talking about this snowflake generation. So the term snowflake, the idea is that people these days are delicate. You can't say anything, you can't do anything without offending someone, somewhere. And this is terribly annoying because even when I make videos, we've done ones in the past about Islam and various different things, even then, even if they are in favour and speak very highly of, for instance, the Muslims, there's still some sort of fear, inherent sensitivity by just simply saying terrorist or Muslim or whatever it may be. And this is the state that we've got ourselves into, that we have to get out of, because we cannot push any social boundaries without pushing these issues and talking about it more. Well, I have it so many times where I have said something that isn't racist, homophobic, or whatever, and yet people label it as that, because we are in this delicate state where even if you utter the word gay or terrorist or whatever it may be, that you're instantly labelled as homophobic or Islamophobic or whatever it may be. It's as if the terms itself have been skewed and become much more broader, because the term, Islamophobic, homophobic, racist, these are about projected hatred and projected anger onto that demographic. If you are homophobic, you hate gays. If you are racist, you are judging someone and attacking someone based on their race, ethnicity, and colour. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of times when you say something that may involve someone's ethnicity, even if it isn't offensive, people will instantly jump and call you racist. This needs to stop, and I'll tell you why. Recently in an interview, we have this gentleman, comedian, Frankie Boyle, okay? He talked about in an interview about media as it is today and about comedy as well. And he touched on this idea, which we'll have a look at in a second, about the impact of sensitivity on media. So let's take a look.
But the idea of mainstream generally, mainstream and alternative are kind of ideological labels. I tried to do a thing on Radio 2, they asked me to select some songs for an interview. I said, could I have Joanna Newsom? And they said, no, it's too alternative. And I'd just been to see her at the Albert Hall, I said, she can't be alternative. And they're, no, it's, and what they mean is it's too challenging, it's too difficult.
You genuinely think that that's the case? And let's take a channel like Channel 4, which should be... I mean, I would defend BBC One to the hilt and say, no, BBC One have got a job to do, which is to appeal to a mainstream audience. And I don't think mainstream is an ideological thing. I think we all know what we mean when we say mainstream. But I think Channel 4 has a different duty, probably. And do you think that's a channel where different, unusual, riskier, more controversial programs should be on? Because that doesn't seem to be
They have a duty that they've completely abandoned. I mean, their whole outlook is like one of those magazines, like Take a Break or Chat Magazine or something like that. You know, a guy with 18 stone testicles, or Let's All Hate People on Benefits, or here's a woman with 23 kids and she's on benefits. It's exactly the same as... I saw Take a Break the other day, and the headline was, someone has an 18 stone tumour. You think, what are you taking a break from if you're discussing mega cancer? And Chat, the headline was someone had suffocated his baby. What kind of chat is that? We were trying to take a break over here, and suddenly you're chatting about infanticide. But that's exactly what Channel 4 are doing. It's people with giant misshapen heads, and they're trying to appeal to the absolute worst. And it's the opposite of what their remit is.
Well, they would say what you said. Their defence would be they contextualise it with lots of other different programmes and lots of other challenging things. They would say they think an awful lot about what they put on TV. They think an awful lot about what they commission. They're very careful about it. And if you take it in the context of the programmes that are either side of it, then it's acceptable, which is your defence.
The context of programmes to either side is not my defence. So I'm saying I'm making one programme and I can defend what's in that programme.
No, you're saying
that
Katie Price joke is acceptable because of the 5 jokes before it and the context in which it's presented and the things that are behind you, the backdrop that's behind you. It's the same defence.
No, I'm saying it's acceptable within that context. What I'm saying is their programmes are unacceptable in any context. You can't take Benefit Street, which is supposed to be representative of Britain, and essentially it's human bear baiting. You know?
I think
you can't say that's justified in context because you have some documentaries about other stuff. Because it's not.
You called it more poverty, well, in fact you were talking about Immigration Street, I think you said more poverty-shaming, human bear-baiting for Channel 4 to sandwich between booze adverts.
Yeah.
And what's your experience been at Channel 4? Is it a tough place for you at the moment? Because you would seem, honestly it seems to me you'd be the perfect fit for it.
Yeah, no, but I mean I don't think I would ever get anything on there because they don't want to do that kind of thing.
And by that kind of thing, what would you mean specifically?
Anything with any interest or excitement or edge to it, you know. They just want to, I mean, there's a thing where you get a division in television between creating things and producing things. And people now are much more interested in just producing very similar content. And a lot of the shows on there have been very similar for 5 to 10 years. And, you know, there's nothing happening there. It seems creatively dead.
But it was ever thus, wasn't it?
No, I mean, I remember it years ago when it was great, you know.
Yeah, that's because you were younger and you'd seen fewer television programmes.
Maybe. There is a slight element of that. But, you know, there definitely was a lot more risk to what they were doing when they started out than to what they're doing now, which seems almost like Channel 5, really. They talk about Channel 5 copying them. It seems the other way around.
Okay, so what did we gather from that? The problem is that when you have this sensitivity and this backlash that's come so often with media, is that then you don't push these boundaries, and that things like racism and homophobia and things which are important and things that we should discuss because they're extremely damaging become a social taboo, and that people just want to avoid it. We want to brush it under the rug. That is what's happening now with this snowflake generation, is that we are just brushing problems under the rug because people are too scared to talk about it in fear of backlash. Now, the media is the same. We have a channel, Channel 4, as it said in the video, which is supposed to be breaking these boundaries and doing more controversial things, and yet they're not. And media itself, whether it be YouTube or, you know, NBC or anywhere around the world, any news channel or TV network, are not pushing these boundaries and are just instead doing these light-hearted, light entertainment shows. And the problem is that these taboos, which we should be discussing, aren't, and that's why they're not being solved. If we did talk about them, if we did push these boundaries, if we did make light the actual problems and stop trying to just throw out these immense, heavy words such as homophobia, Islamophobia, racism willy-nilly, and actually looked at where these things are specifically taking place and looking for a solution in them, then the world would have thicker skin, would have solved many problems, and would be able to continue on a path of community. Instead, we are in a phase of regression, because what's happening is people are becoming too scared to talk about things, so they're hiding away from it. And so in that case, people are getting away with it who are committing those problems, because no one wants to say anything about it. No one wants to report on it because it's too scared. No one wants to talk about it because of the money issues and the what might happen. It's much better to be safe and secure where you can have the money flowing in media than it is to actually push these boundaries and talk about the big problems of, like, Israel, Gaza, Palestine. But as soon as you say those things, people cringe up in fear, and that is the problem. So I want to say thank you very much for watching. We're going to be doing a few more videos on this. We're going to be talking to some people about these issues and seeing if we can come out of this snowflake generation and looking at these problems and discussing them face on. Thank you for watching. Have a good week. See you next time.